I'm Sasha Torres, working the cash register at a vast supermarket tucked away on Atlanta's outskirts. The night shift has become my domain, a silent routine beneath the steady hum of fluorescent lights that drone like weary insects. When empty, the store transforms, its aisles extending like infinite corridors, the atmosphere thick with cleaning solution and yesterday's bakery scents. Though I'm only 28, my body feels ancient, worn from countless hours standing on this unforgiving floor. Here in the suburban expanse, our store stands isolated, encircled by empty fields and nature's nocturnal symphony. Most nights, it's just me, the steady purr of refrigeration units, and thoughts wandering to my mother at home, her delicate hands struggling with a teacup she can barely manage anymore. This job keeps our heads above water, as I dream of a future where her medication doesn't drain our every penny. I was cleaning my checkout station long after the final shopper had departed, when everything changed. An ear-piercing alarm shattered the quiet, piercing and unexpected, like thunder in a clear sky. My heart raced wildly, my hands frozen in place. I whirled around, scanning from the overhead speakers to the entrance, anticipating broken windows or fleeing intruders. Nothing visible. Only that persistent shriek bouncing off the merchandise, penetrating my thoughts. I stepped backward, my shoe catching an uneven floor tile as the lighting system faltered, dimming to an eerie half-light. Shadows stretched and danced across the ground, seeming almost sentient. A break-in attempt? Electrical malfunction? The cause remained unclear, but instinct warned of impending trouble, and I knew I'd end up taking the fall. Before I could regain composure, rapid footsteps echoed from aisle 5. Marjorie Klein, my supervisor, emerged fuming, her stern features illuminated by the flickering lights. She's all angles and edges, with severely styled gray hair and perpetually disapproving lips. She halted abruptly before me, arms akimbo, her voice rising above the alarm. "Sasha," she snarled, "what have you done this time?" I stared, caught off guard. "I've been at my station," I responded, dabbing nervous sweat from my hands onto my apron. "I haven't been near the entrance." She scoffed, her gaze intensifying. "Stop the excuses," she hissed. "You've been reckless since reporting my inventory discrepancies last year. I knew you'd make another mistake." My insides churned with unease. The memory of our previous confrontation, when I'd exposed her manipulated inventory figures, still simmered beneath the surface. I parted my lips to defend myself, but she leaned in closer, her coffee-tainted breath invading my space. "The new owner will be here soon," she warned, her voice sharp as a blade, "and I refuse to let your incompetence drag me under. Sort this out, or you're finished. No more chances." With that, she spun around and disappeared into the dimness, abandoning me to face the fading alarm and mounting anxiety. Terminated? I couldn't afford to lose this position, not with Mom depending on me. My eyes darted across the vacant store, the lights now steadying, but an unsettling chill remained. Something felt off, more sinister than Marjorie's intimidation tactics. "Hey there, everyone, stay with me for a moment. Before we delve further into this unsettling story, I'm curious about something. What corner of the world are you following from? Perhaps you're nestled at home or cruising on a midnight drive. Share your location with us. And if you're captivated by the story thus far, don't forget to subscribe for upcoming chapters. Trust me, you'll want to stay tuned." The alarm finally ceased, but the silence that followed was more oppressive, weighing heavily against my eardrums. I retrieved a flashlight from beneath the register, its beam wavering in my trembling hands, and cautiously approached the rear exit. Knowing Marjorie would fault me regardless, I had to investigate. The door remained sealed, but the lock bore suspicious marks, fresh scratches catching the light. My heart rate accelerated. Had an intruder been here? I swept the beam around, catching a fleeting movement near the loading area, too swift to identify. My breath caught in my throat as I retreated, the flashlight quivering. I tried convincing myself it was merely shadows playing tricks, but my instinct screamed otherwise. Something or someone had triggered that alarm, and they remained nearby. I stood isolated, caught between Marjorie's impending fury and an unseen threat. And this was merely the beginning. After Marjorie's footsteps faded into darkness, I remained rooted, clutching the flashlight, its beam cutting through the supermarket's unsettling stillness. Though the alarm had ceased, its phantom screech persisted in my mind, refusing to dissipate. Those fresh scratches on the back door lock haunted me, like tiny violent signatures left behind. The store was deserted, leaving me alone with endless shelves of merchandise standing as mute observers. I switched off the flashlight, returning it beneath the counter, attempting to resume closing procedures. My hands moved mechanically, cleaning the scanner, organizing receipts, while my eyes constantly darted to shadowy corners, anticipating movement. The store's atmosphere had shifted, feeling more expansive and desolate, with shadows gathering thickly in areas beyond the fluorescent glow. Each settling noise from the building made me jump, and the freezer's constant drone now resembled ominous growling. Seeking distraction, I grabbed a broom and began sweeping aisle 7, but the bristles caught something unexpected. My heart pounding, I stooped down to discover a half-smoked cigarette, its tip radiating warmth. I inhaled sharply. Smoking was strictly forbidden, and neither I nor the night staff indulged. I quickly discarded it, wiping my hands on my apron while my thoughts raced frantically. Had someone sneaked in during the commotion? Scanning the aisle's towering shelves, I glimpsed what appeared to be movement near the frozen food section, a silhouette too elongated to be mere shadows. I blinked, and it vanished, though goosebumps suggested I wasn't alone. I completed my duties in a distracted state, securing the registers with trembling hands, weighed down by Marjorie's ultimatum. Her threat lingered, offering no room for error, and those mysterious scratches continued to trouble me. Gathering my belongings, I shouldered my bag and headed toward the employee exit near the loading dock. The outdoor air struck me with its chill, heavy with the scent of damp grass and lingering truck exhaust. My weathered hatchback stood isolated beneath a flickering streetlight, its paint showing years of wear. Halfway across the lot, my keys jingling, I stopped abruptly. The bushes along the fence rustled distinctly, too purposeful to be wind-driven. Pivoting, I peered into the darkness, catching a momentary gleam, perhaps eyes, perhaps metal, before it disappeared. Despite my racing pulse urging flight, I maintained a measured pace until reaching my car. I hastily locked myself in, the engine reluctantly starting, and sped away, watching the supermarket diminish in my mirror. The route home meandered through silent streets, past closed-down gas stations and weather-worn billboards, typical of Atlanta's peripheral neighborhoods. I repeatedly checked my mirrors, anticipating pursuing headlights, but encountered only empty roads and the sound of my own labored breathing. My apartment building, an unremarkable brick structure hidden behind a pawn shop, wasn't far. After parking, I climbed the stairs and entered my unit, fighting with the stubborn lock. Inside, I found only the refrigerator's soft hum and Mom's vacant chair by the window. She was spending the night at my aunt's, taking a much-needed break for her respiratory issues, leaving me alone with the oppressive quiet. I dropped my backpack, collapsed onto the worn couch, and attempted to dismiss my unease. Just fatigued from a lengthy shift, I reassured myself, pressing my palms against my eyes until they burned. But the discarded cigarette kept surfacing in my thoughts, followed by that mysterious rustling and that metallic glint. Rising anxiously, I double-checked the deadbolt, then cautiously peered through the Venetian blinds. The street lay quiet beneath sodium vapor lamps casting amber pools of light, but something shifted, a dark figure gliding past a dumpster on the opposite side. My insides churned. I quickly snapped the blinds closed, my heart racing, and retreated backward. Could it be the same presence from the supermarket? I clutched my phone, fingers suspended over the emergency number. But what explanation could I offer? A suspicious shadow? They dismiss me as paranoid, and Marjorie would use it as ammunition to further undermine me. I circled my compact living room, the carpet threadbare beneath my feet, mentally revisiting every moment of the evening. The security alarm, those mysterious scratches, the cigarette butt, and now this. It wasn't merely my imagination running wild, not entirely. Someone had infiltrated the store, someone unauthorized, and they tracked me to my residence. I sank back into the couch's embrace, wrapping myself tightly in a throw blanket, but rest remained elusive. The building's framework groaned, wind rattled the window pane, and every noise morphed into approaching footsteps. Despite securing the entrance, I felt vulnerable. Whatever had triggered that alarm wasn't finished with me, and the darkness beyond my window harbored mysteries I couldn't escape. The subsequent days crawled by like an inescapable nightmare. Returning to the supermarket, my nerves constantly frayed. Each shift tested my resolve. The establishment appeared unchanged, fluorescent tubes buzzing overhead, shelves stocked with everyday items, but something felt wrong, like a facade concealing decay. I'd find myself fixated on the rear entrance, those unexplained scratches remaining untouched, a silent reminder. Marjorie maintained her pressure, lurking near my checkout, her calculating gaze monitoring every action, her voice menacing whenever she passed. "You're walking on dangerous ground, Sasha," she'd whisper, scanning her clipboard as if it contained my destiny. I'd acknowledge silently, suppress my responses, and continue scanning items, but her presence lingered like a cold shadow. Strange incidents began accumulating, initially minor, but gradually impossible to dismiss. During one shift, I discovered pasta boxes strewn across aisle 3, scattered as if deliberately knocked over. The stockroom team insisted they'd arranged them properly, and their bewildered expressions convinced me. Later, the deli section security camera malfunctioned, leaving only static where the meat display should have been visible. Maintenance inspected it, but found no issues with the wiring. Afterward, while patrolling the aisles with my broom, I'd experience sudden temperature drops, like someone brushing past me. I'd spin around to empty space, yet goosebumps would ripple across my arms. Marjorie, predictably, blamed everything on me. She'd approach, her heels striking the floor like drum beats, jabbing her finger at whatever chaos awaited. "This is your responsibility, Sasha," she'd bark. "Either clean it up or leave permanently." I'd protest my innocence, explaining I'd been manning the register all evening, but she'd interrupt. "I don't want excuses," she'd retort, her mouth twisting into a satisfied smirk. I clench my jaw, clean the mess, and wonder if this was her elaborate scheme to break me. But something deeper was occurring, an unnamed presence growing bolder, drawing nearer. Then I encountered him. The store was dimly lit, empty of customers, as I restocked the candy display near checkout. A shadow materialized at aisle 10's entrance. Looking up, I saw him, massive, broad-shouldered, wearing a weathered jacket that hung loosely like discarded skin. His unshaven face bore a prominent scar down one cheek, and his dark eyes fixed upon me, unwavering. My hand stopped mid-motion, dropping a gummy worm package to the floor. He remained motionless, one hand buried in his pocket, the other rhythmically tapping cigarettes against his leg. "Hey," I managed shakily, "we're closing soon." His mouth curved into a slow, unsettling grin as he mumbled something indistinct, possibly about the lighting, maybe about me. Then he turned, his heavy boots echoing through the store, and vanished around the corner. I sprinted to the aisle's end, my heart hammering against my ribs, but he had vanished as if absorbed by the store shadows. I rushed to check the entrance doors, all securely locked, with the parking lot deserted beneath the harsh glow of street lamps. Anxiety constricted my chest as I wondered how he'd managed to enter. My hand hovered over the security phone beside my register, but hesitated. What evidence could I present? A mysterious man who disappeared into thin air? Marjorie would twist this against me, claiming I'd been negligent, allowing late-night wanderers to roam freely. I returned the receiver, my palms slick with sweat, just as Javi appeared. "Everything all right, Sasha?" he inquired gently, his youthful face creased with concern. "You look shaken." I attempted a laugh that emerged brittle and unconvincing. "Just exhausted," I replied, but my facade didn't fool him. He abandoned his beverage cart, stepping closer. "Earlier, I heard something strange," he confided, heavy footsteps near the loading dock. I assumed it was our delivery person, but no truck arrived. My stomach churned uneasily. Javi's expression radiated sincerity, his eyes wide and earnest. Relief flickered through me. Someone else had noticed something amiss. I described my encounter. The man, his distinctive scar, that unsettling smirk. Javi listened intently, nodding thoughtfully. "I'll watch your back," he assured me, offering a reassuring pat. "We're facing this together, okay?" His quiet support drew a genuine smile from me. But as he resumed his duties, my gaze drifted to the lifeless deli camera, and that familiar chill returned. This mysterious figure wasn't supernatural. He was flesh and blood, and he'd return. The supermarket had transformed from my workplace into a prison, with something menacing lurking beyond its walls. The store felt increasingly oppressive after the scarred stranger's disappearance. I mechanically scanned items, my eyes constantly darting to every dark corner and shifting shadow. Javi remained nearby, his cart's familiar rattle providing subtle comfort against the growing unease. One evening, Marjorie's voice crackled through the intercom, her tone dripping with satisfaction. "Sasha, you're working late," she announced. "The inventory count's wrong again. Your responsibility." I clenched my teeth, recognizing another of her calculated moves to corner me. Javi caught my expression and whispered he'd stay too. I nodded gratefully. As the final customer departed with their snack purchase, we found ourselves alone beneath the fluorescent light's steady hum. We secured the front entrance, the lock's click resonating through the quiet store, before making our way to the stockroom for inventory. The atmosphere there was stifling, laden with dust particles and lingering traces of spilled cleaning solution. Javi struggled with a heavy crate of canned vegetables, his lean arms trembling, while I recorded figures on my clipboard, my flashlight secured in my apron pocket. The overhead light sputtered, creating sharp-edged shadows on the floor, and I stopped counting mid-sequence. A metallic scraping sound emerged from the loading dock, steel against steel, methodical and purposeful. Javi jerked his head up, his expression filled with alarm. "Did you catch that?" he murmured, barely audible. I confirmed with a nod, placing the clipboard aside as my heartbeat accelerated. "Can't be deliveries," I responded. "Wrong hours for trucks." I inched toward the dock entrance, Javi following closely, his breath coming in quick, nervous bursts. The metal door stood imposingly ahead, firmly bolted, but those mysterious scratches from previous weeks flashed vividly in my memory. Pressing my ear against the cold surface, I heard it again, a scrape followed by a heavy thump, suggesting movement outside. As my fingers wavered near the lock, the door suddenly shuddered, a violent impact rattling the entire frame. I stumbled backward, clutching Javi's sleeve, just as the door burst open, its hinges screaming as night air rushed inside. The scarred intruder entered, more intimidating than before, wearing a stained jacket and wielding a crowbar loosely. His face contorted into a menacing grin, eyes gleaming beneath the unstable lighting, making my insides churn. "You," he snarled, aiming the weapon at me. "You know too much." I pushed Javi behind me, my voice unsteady. "Leave now," I demanded. "We're closed." His harsh, empty laughter preceded his attack as he lunged forward, swinging the crowbar at my head. I ducked, feeling it graze my shoulder with searing pain, before tumbling into a tower of boxes that collapsed around me. Javi's terrified cry pierced the air as he charged at our attacker, wielding a broom like a weapon. It connected with the man's arm, but he barely reacted, pivoting swiftly to strike Javi's ribcage with the crowbar. Javi collapsed, wheezing and clutching his side, while I scrambled upright, blood seeping down my arm. "Stop!" I screamed, launching a nearby can at him. It struck his ear, provoking an enraged roar as he charged again. I evaded him, slipping on scattered peas, while he swung wildly, demolishing a shelf with an ear-splitting crash of buckling metal. I grasped Javi's hand, dragging him toward the main floor, my trembling legs propelling us forward. We burst through the stockroom doors, the store's shadowy aisles stretching before us like a labyrinth, and I yanked Javi behind a towering display of cereal boxes. His complexion had turned ashen, perspiration dotting his forehead, each breath coming in painful gasps. Terror gripped my chest as I realized he was injured, my shaking fingers fumbling with my phone, slippery with crimson stains. The intruder's footsteps echoed ominously, deliberate and menacing, his elongated shadow creeping across the floor tiles. I frantically dialed 911, my voice barely a whisper as I reported, "Emergency at the supermarket, please hurry," but static crackled through the weak connection. Javi's whimper made me press my hand against his mouth, my own breathing irregular. I silently mouthed, "Quiet," my gaze fixed on the aisle's corner. The footsteps ceased abruptly, silence descending like a suffocating blanket before a sinister laugh pierced the air, sending chills down my spine. "You're only prolonging the inevitable," he taunted, dragging his crowbar along the shelves with a metallic screech that reverberated through the store. Through a gap in the boxes, I glimpsed him turning toward the deli section and seized the opportunity, hauling Javi toward the break room. Despite my throbbing shoulder and blood-soaked sleeve, I persevered, pushing us inside and engaging the lock. A single thunderous blow rattled the door, followed by eerie silence. I cradled Javi's trembling form as tires screeched outside, the sound fading into the darkness. Collapsing to the floor, phone still gripped tightly, I finally heard the operator's voice break through. "Officers en route. Stay where you are," she instructed. Javi stared at the door with unfocused eyes, his quivering hands clutching my arm. "I couldn't stop him," he whispered hoarsely. I embraced him, fighting back tears despite my own agony. "You did your best," I assured him. Blood pooled beneath us, his torso, displaying angry bruises, and my vision swam, but I maintained my grip, awaiting help. Our attacker had vanished into the night, leaving devastation in his wake. The supermarket, once familiar, had transformed into a battleground, and we narrowly escaped the first assault. The break room door shuddered violently as police lights pierced through the window blinds, their sirens shattering the night silence. I clutched Javi closer, his face pressed against my chest as his breathing came in shallow, irregular gasps. My injured shoulder throbbed mercilessly, dried blood caking down my arm, but I maintained my protective hold until law enforcement breached the door, their heavy footfalls echoing across the tiled floor. "Hands where we can see them," one officer commanded before lowering his weapon upon seeing our battered forms huddled together, fear etched across our faces. My voice emerged rough and strained as I gestured toward the stockroom. He escaped that way, tall man wielding a crowbar. The officers dispersed efficiently, radio chatter filling the air, while a medic knelt beside us, her movements swift yet careful as she bandaged my wound and applied pressure to Javi's injuries. The supermarket transformed into a bustling crime scene, with officers methodically searching every aisle and processing evidence near the loading dock. They recovered the discarded crowbar by a dumpster, its edge stained with my blood, alongside a distinctive boot impression in the soil. From my position on the ambulance stretcher with Javi beside me, his vacant gaze fixed on nothing, I provided details to a weather detective who scribbled notes rapidly. He had a prominent facial scar, I recalled, as Javi winced and added, "He mentioned Sasha seeing too much." The detective's expression darkened before he stepped aside, speaking urgently into his radio about a potential suspect match in an ongoing investigation. Marjorie arrived disheveled, wearing a coat over sleepwear, her hair uncombed. She froze upon seeing our condition, her usual stern expression dissolving into shock. When she asked what happened, her voice wavering, I remained silent, emotionally drained. The detective interrogated her about security protocols and previous threats, while she fumbled for responses, admitting I dismissed it as Sasha's negligence. Her guilty glance in my direction spoke volumes. Later, we learned about a burner phone discovered in her office, containing calls to an unknown number. My stomach churned with uncertainty. Was she complicit or merely negligent? Either way, her remorse couldn't erase what had transpired. Otis arrived shortly after, the store's proprietor, a stout man with a noticeable limp and a gravelly voice. He explained he'd been inspecting other locations, but rushed straight from the airport. His expression softened upon seeing our condition, and he lowered himself carefully. "Both of you are on paid leave until you're recovered," he declared. "I'm handling all medical expenses, and we're implementing enhanced security measures." He passed me an envelope containing additional compensation and squeezed Javi's shoulder, assuring him of future employment. I acknowledged silently, my throat constricted with emotion, feeling simultaneously grateful yet empty. My mother appeared too, her delicate frame shaking as she embraced me, confessing she'd sensed something amiss throughout the night. The subsequent period became a hazy blend of days, my apartment becoming a sanctuary of creaking floorboards and subdued lighting. While my arm healed, leaving behind a permanent jagged scar, Javi's trauma ran far deeper. Sudden noises would startle him, and he'd wake terrified from dreams filled with menacing footsteps and dark figures, his once gentle eyes now reflecting inner turmoil. I'd visit his modest trailer nearby, preparing tea and speaking softly until his nerves settled. Law enforcement traced the burner phone calls to a seedy bar on the outskirts, conducting a raid that revealed blood-stained clothing in a storage area. But Vance remained elusive. He'd escaped detection, a menacing presence who knew my name, leaving me startled at every sound outside my window, wondering if he'd return to complete his violent mission. Recovery progressed gradually, battling invisible wounds. I resumed working amid Otis's newly installed surveillance systems, though the store's atmosphere felt tainted and unwelcoming. Javi sought professional help, his voice unsteady while recounting that horrific night as I provided silent support, confronting my own demons. Vance remained at large, an ever-present threat we couldn't dismiss, the consequence of our ordeal. Though I protected Javi, our peace of mind was the sacrifice, leaving us forever marked by lingering fear. We learned a harsh truth. While compassion connects us, courage attracts danger, and survival means bearing the burden without surrendering to it. Our story concludes here. Share your thoughts on this ending. Did it meet your expectations or surprise you? Drop your comments below. If you enjoyed this narrative, please like and subscribe for future stories. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you in the next story.